Yeah, this is Detlev of Wake News Radio, Wake News TV. We are having a great interview today with a guest from the UK, but he's actually a German, or let's say a Bavarian, which is a difference, isn't it?
Yeah, as long as you don't say barbarian, it's all right. Yeah, well, it's a difference. Yeah,
yeah, right. And he's a very interesting guy because he's going to tell us news, which you don't usually get every day. And I don't want to talk too much about him. He can present himself in the best way, and I let him speak. And just a little hint for the audience: it is concerning you and me. It's concerning us. It's concerning everybody. All humans on Earth, right?
Well, it is true because where we are coming from is the law side today. It's a very dry subject, but we're trying to ease it up a little bit. I must say we have got some fun because we managed to do some things the enemies didn't like, especially the judges. They don't like what we're doing.
So you're talking about the current justice system, right?
Well, that's one thing. I originally came out of a totally different industries, but I don't want to bore anyone with that. I learned a lot there, and I learned the lies in every industries are pretty much the same. The only difference in the law is that there seem to be the most perverted people, and so that needs a little bit of a special treatment of the issues and the facts and so on. What I learned, as from previous industries, is looking at things and wondering why did we get bloody noses, etc., etc. And I learned very quickly that you can't act in the so-called courts straight. It's all, as they like to say in Britain, crooked thinking. Oh. And this kind of thinking doesn't go with humans. So you have to go into the fiction. And the fiction is where it all starts. But I do not want to go today into that too deeply because there's plenty on the net which will explain it better than I can do today. I want to go into what we effectively can do. And most of the people, they do not know how powerful they are. They've got brains given, yeah.
Right.
It's coming from the top level of the management, yeah. He has given the brain, yeah, not to fill the ears, the space between the ears, for us to use it. Unfortunately, a lot of people have learned not to use their brains anymore, and they are relying too much on so-called experts, and that's what the courts are using. If they are not getting through that stage, that is the courts, then they try other means which are more crooked or even violence. So, as a lot of us are justice-loving people, we don't want that to happen. So for us to find the answer, we obviously have to dive into the law, but in the right way. And the right way is to start with it from the reality and not let us drag into fiction. So the fictitious courts, as we have to call them, which thrive on the fraudulent conveyance of the language, they were not always there. Yeah. In the US, common law courts are very well known. So everyone who wants to tell us they're all fantasy, fiction, you name it, they are outright lying. In the United Kingdom, there are such courts known. Not many, but there are. Even in the Strand in London is a hidden common law court. Not to the degree a common law court should be on the highest foundation or the highest law on planet Earth, which is the biblical law. However, they are coming reasonably close. And as someone who is a great believer in a creator, and that the Bible is the law with and the principles to live by, I thought it was a good start.
Can you explain again what the difference is between common law court and a regular court, or the current justice system, which you're saying are using fictional the person, right?
Yeah. Well, very simple very simple to make it understanding. That's the best way to say it. Is take murder. According to the biblical law, as for every crime committed, a settlement has to be done. Yeah? To whom? The victim, obviously. So, in the so-called fictitious courts, we do not know murder. Well, they might want to call it this, but it's not dealt. Murder is not dealt with. What is dealt with is a capital crime, and that capital crime is a crime that is treated in the system. So, who is getting a settlement? Well, the state, or the construct that is claiming to be the state. Because the victims, in case of murder, murdered can't get a settlement, which most of people want to call compensation. There is no compensation. You can only settle the matters as well as. So, who gets the settlement? Is going into the court, into the banks. But what about the victim? So that can't be real.
Is that because the so-called person, according to the birth certificate, is belonging to the state? That's why the state gets all the settlement?
Well, the legal name belongs to the construct. Yeah? I don't want to call it states because most of them aren't anymore states. Yeah. Belongs to the construct. And that can't be real because the human or man, woman, they are not belonging to a corporation or to a state, because otherwise they have no rights they can enforce there. If they're part of it, I can't enforce. I can't enforce myself or anything on myself. So they have, they would have, as humans or men and women, would have rights they can enforce. As the legal name, you are part of the system, and they can do what they want with you. That's how it is viewed. So that can't be real, because the settlement goes to the construct or the corporation which owns the legal name. Right. So the legal name is fiction. The settlement process is fiction. Everything in it is fiction. Yeah, because the problem is not being dealt with.
Well, I mean, you may have watched some movies, crime movies and so forth, and it all shows only the human, the murdered human. You never really get the trial, and you never watched a real trial in a common law court, right? This is all fictional, isn't it? How would you explain how this is being dealt with in movies, which we can see every day on television or in the movies as such?
Well, the movies we see, they tell us the truth about it. They tell us found it, well, somebody gets a sentence for committing this and that and anything, but it's not being talked about as settlement. The only place where they go mad with settlements is in the US. Yeah? But there they have got the common law courts. Yeah. So it is, of course, the crime, when it is done maliciously, needs to be punished in one way or the other. Right. But just having a prison sentence as a punishment is not the real punishment and is not doing any good to the victims. Yeah. Victims in a murder is obviously families that get affected with, but you can take others. What is in case of rape? What does the victim get there? Nothing, and that cannot be in the real world. Yeah.
Now, as I understand it, your organization has founded a global common law court, which is located in the UK. And you've got also another court which has been established. That's the so-called PORD. This is the abbreviation. He's going to explain the real name in a minute. Why have you done this? And what are the purposes of those courts?
Well, before I even thought about the court, I wanted to become a member of another common law court. But wherever I looked, something was not right. So, and then I had no choice other than reinventing the wheel. Mm-hmm. So that was the beginning of the idea of the Global Common Law Court, or the GCLC, as we know it. I started the whole process. Some people came into it, did their part on it. Unfortunately, some turned against us in it because of personal reasons of wanting to be more than we all should be. So that was the beginning of the GCLC that has then turned into a real court system. However, the problem we have is that we are not accepted by the perverted elements of the fictitious courts. And we need to grow a lot faster, we know that, but whatever happens, we had no grip in the way we need it because of the opposition and the violence. And we then developed various instruments, and one is the now very famous affidavit in German, although it has been used successfully in Britain.
It started off in Britain.
We started off in Britain. We got very quickly, nearly soaked up by the German demand. Yeah. And we then had to do the instruments, and one of the instruments was the affidavit. And affidavits are known in the US, in the Commonwealth area. However, I couldn't see the grip on most of them. Therefore, it was done slightly different. It starts with laying the groundwork, what jurisdiction or what law is it based on. And we said, okay, the only law worth considering is the biblical law, the principles and the laws. And there's, strictly speaking, only two laws. Mm-hmm. Of course, the Mosaic Law and certain other commandments, they are more than two. However, the two core laws is the ones in Matthew 22:37-40, where it is spoken about to love our Father in the heavens more than anything else, and our neighbor like ourselves. And everything else can be explained or judged, ruled by these two things. And it's naturally, if I love my neighbor like myself, I would not go and kill him or her. Yeah. if I'm loving my creator, then I'm not destroying as a beneficiary the planet that has been given more or less into our hands to look after. Yeah,
which is being destroyed since
systematically. Yeah. So that is clear. So once we laid the foundation of the level of law, everyone in the courtroom has to adhere to that. There is no two ways about it. The second part that was very important to look at is that we need to eliminate, more or less eliminate, the 12 presumptions of the bar, which is a contractual arrangement under the carpet, which will stick due to the fact that we allow it. So we wipe them out and say, okay, whatever you come with that, no way.
Can you explain a little bit about the Bar Association for those who are not familiar with the expression or with this organization?
Well, the Bar stands for British Accreditation Registry, and in meantime, there is also the I by the International Bar Association. The Bar Association controls virtually every lawyer, prosecutor, judge in the system.
It's a private organization, right?
It is a private organization, and they have developed long time ago the so-called 12 presumption of the bar, which tie us into a agreement that is legally instant death. Yeah, we cannot win any case if we are not in the position to wipe out the power of the bar, the presumptions of the bar.
Yeah, I think most people who are standing in front of a judge in a regular court are not aware that there are 12 presumptions against him or against her in the beginning, right?
Yeah. Well, no. Up to about 2012, we knew nothing concrete about them. Yeah, the assumption, or we assumed or presumed that there is something we don't know, because we all knew about the saying, which a lot of us felt, you go into the courtroom and you're already judged, and you lost your case. Yeah, this what people felt, and that gut feeling didn't come from nowhere. So that was true. By 2012, we started to understand them, and that was the point where we could slowly get to grips with it. And it was a very, very mean thing. Yeah, but what would you expect from Satanists? Yeah. It is Freemasonry at the worst level, and that is what they were performing. So that is very, very serious stuff, and we had to wipe that out, and we then started to criminalize them at the same time.
Yeah. Well, that is a huge discovery. I mean, in 2012, what came out by whistleblowers, what is really happening behind the curtains. But on the other hand, it's also a problem for a judge, because he's or anybody else in the system who are serving two purposes: the public service, because they have a public oath. Even if you say there is no state, it's all a corporation, but still they have a public oath, and then they have this private oath towards the Bar Association, right? And that gives a conflict. And this is something which you are pointing out with your instrument of this kind of affidavit.
Yeah, we have to point that out as well, and we have to put the records right there. They see the first given oath or performed oath, which is the private and secret one up here, and the public down there. Right. So because it's up there, the private oath, that one is not so important. And so they try to make us believe that only their absolute private oath is what counts, but it is not. Once you give that oath, with the intention to get a conflicting lower ranking. It doesn't matter. Lower ranking murder is still murder. The conflict remains. The conflict will not be wiped out, period. So the contradiction is there. But as long as we allow for it, we are guilty as well. And that's why we need to clear. You can give whatever oath. It can be sky high and the other one way under the carpet. It does not matter. Conflict of interest means it is invalidating both oaths. And that's what we're clearing out.
Well, many people in the English-speaking area will say, well, yeah, I know affidavits. I've done many affidavits and there's nothing new. What do you think? What is the difference between the kind of affidavit you are using or you are proposing versus the regular affidavit, if there is a regular affidavit?
Well, let me compare it with something a lot of us are very familiar. Take a normal screwdriver and with a slot, also slotted screws, and try to screw that in under awkward conditions. It might do the job. Have you got a Phillips, which is double more or less, or posi drive, you're doing a lot more. Have you got more, if I like, star key or anything, you have much more grip. Same screw, different head, different appliance. That is possibly a simple example to compare it. The most of the affidavits, they are more or less, I'm not guilty, I don't want to be pronounced guilty, and a few things stated, and if anything else, then it's some complaints. That's not what an affidavit should be. It is a teethless wild animal. The point we tried to make with it, why it is split, or why it is 4 parts to it. The one is define the law that's applicable. And if we do not define the highest law as the only applicable things, then people try to drag us down. That's a judge's trick. So we do not allow that. Secondly, we are going with whatever they are doing, for centuries, where we know it's not right. We say, okay, you do that. We tell you there, you're not allowed to do it, and it is criminal that you do it. We criminalize them. So that means we make them guilty of offenses or crimes, and we can pull them up for a long time to come and a long time going back. So we are not trying to apply civil law. We are trying to apply criminal law. And fraud and any other criminal law is, for them not nice. There are no judge, no lawyer in the world wants to be associated with fraud, because that's ultimately what's happening. And they don't even want to talk about it, that we cannot associate them with that. And that is the difference of our affidavit. And that's the reason why we're in the German-speaking world, where we have the bulk of the affidavits of that kind. Currently, I'm pretty sure it will change, because
if you would go to the States, I mean, there would be a certain amount there coming up as well. What do you think?
I'm sure they would, and they will. We have at the moment, of course, mainly the results in the German-speaking world. That is Switzerland, Austria, Germany, and Italy. And we have plenty of cases where the judges or the prosecutors just withdraw, which is not enough, because we want to go in and eventually turn tables and make the hunter the hunted, which we have the right, all the right to do so, because they committed fraud. And this is what we want to wipe out in our lives. Whoever wants to do that, we're happily helping that they can get justice for themselves. We are not doing it for the people who do not care, so they can stay where they want to. But for these, we will do, and we'll do our best. So with this affidavit, we had, of course, a certain limitation with the force we having against us. And that meant that we cannot use the Global Common Law Court as yet to the full. So the idea came up. We extend what the Global Common Law Court can do. Problem is, we couldn't do this under the Global Common Law Court because the Global Common Law Court has a constitution, which every court or every construct should have.
Yeah.
So with that, we would have to alter the constitution of the Global Common Law Court, and that is not a good idea to do things like that. Therefore, we came up with the idea of the G-PORD.
Yeah, explain to us what the G-PORD, which is an abbreviation, obviously, means.
To start with, it means something very nasty. And what it is, as a matter of fact, is so nasty that they made assassination attempts in the meantime because judges and bankers realize what that means.
So they made a life-threatening attack on you, right?
Oh, yeah, that's right. And quite a bit more on that. But this would blow the frame of this interview. I'm sure there's other opportunities. So the idea was evolving due to the fact that we are not having enough of a grip as yet, although the affidavit has shown very good results. When judges consider themselves biased to get out of the case, when judges are getting violent, we had it literally physical violence of judge because of what we are doing, because they did not know how to get out of it. They having a lot of fear because of that, because they fear for their future. So the thought was, how do we make the affidavit stick? And there was one simple solution. We need to make it public. So what can we make public? We can make public when we can find them guilty of coercion, harassment, rape, malicious slander, the real money laundering, not what certain institutions claim, that they are taking monies with deception, and these monies created unlawfully for the disadvantage of the ones that it has been taken from. So, and I thought, okay, we'll list that. So, of course, the people who know you, they know that you're also against child abuse. Child abuse and sexual child abuse was added, also a pedophile watch list. Mm-hmm. So we were then an important step further. But then we had another problem we wanted to deal with. And that would have meant going into the UCC to register debts. Yeah. So that is one of the hardest things to do for most of us, because we're only humans. They're not superhumans who are so special that they can sort anything out they want with the help of the UCC. So since we are in the GCLC, a human rights-based organization, and we representing the community in that court, and we were reciprocating this idea in the G-PORD, so in the Global Public Offenders, Rapists and Debtors Register, we can say, right, on the understanding what the biblical foundation says for a debt created doing harm and loss, and even worse, so if it's done with malice, so the intention of doing bad, then we can register that via the public. And who is the members of the public, or the members of the community? Yeah, everyone is a member of the community, and it is accepted that 12 plus 1 members, which is 13 members of the community, represent the community. Therefore, when they come to the conclusion that according to the biblical values, a debt has been created by harm and or loss creation, then that is it. Mm-hmm. So, and all we need to do is take the affidavit, state the facts, send it to the offender or the creator of loss and harm, and if they do not rebut it after 30 days,
detailed,
properly rebut it, and they have to be prepared that we say, okay, you rebutted it now, verify that you can do it because we have the proof, you have done it. Mm-hmm. Then, once that period is gone and they cannot do it, then the members of jury, a minimum of 13, can evaluate the situation. And when they say, okay, according to the biblical law and all the facts presented, that harm and or loss was performed, created, or however you want it is, then this sticks. And there is no court that can overthrow that anymore. And that is the power this court has got. And that's the reason why they try to get rid of us. Because they know they have created these deeds, because the courts do not do anything that is real. They try, with a fictitious conveyance of the language, to drag you into private agreements where they tell you what you can do or what you can't do, which we usually are allowed to do, because a human has the right to travel without being restricted, as long as he does not do harm to anyone else, and can move freely. We are, according to the common law, all free, not slaves of a system. So the community has to work for each other, then the community is functioning. Not that banks is dragging out money from us, having been made by them financial slaves. That is not righteousness, and that is something the Bible does not accept. And we put that into place and said, okay, you judges, all of you have got contracts in the system, as bar association judges. You have contracts or employment contracts with banks, so that you work in the favor of the bank. That is unlawful in the real world. In your fictitious system, it's all right, but we're living in the real world because we're real humans and not legal names or legal fictitious entities or anything else.
Yeah, and I think that is a very interesting topic for every one of us, because we are humans and not fiction. But in order to make sure that they can recognize you as a living being, as a human, you have to establish the first step as a live birth claim, right?
Well, you have to declare yourself. Everything you do not declare is not valid.
It's not your birth certificate, which you have to use, but can you quickly explain what you mean by that?
Well, there's various members of different communities who have created so-called live life claims. And the live life claim means you declare, and the declaration must be truth. You declare yourself as living, and do this, sign this with the present or in the presence of witnesses, which they can see, because they can grab you and they can talk to you, and it makes sometimes sense what we're talking, sometimes not. So clearly, it's a human living and a living being. So a living man or living woman. We are in the system, because of the birth certificate, considered just a legal name. So we are a dead entity in the law, concerning the human. And they want to keep us this way without telling us that we can detach us from that in order to keep us as financial slaves.
Right, and unfortunately, and this is one of the most criticism we have in the so-called mass media, or the controlled media, as we call it, matrix media, because they are not telling you the truth either, because they depend on those who have the money or who give them the money, and they want to keep us this way. That's why the information is kept secret about these facts, right?
Well, I wouldn't word it this way. They tell us the truth, but they present it in a way because they know we are driven by presumption and assumption that once we read what they wanted us to read, the truth they present us turns in our mind into a lie, and we're taking that lie. That would be possibly the right way to say it. The intention is to make us think that what they wrote is the opposite of what we take in, so that we are doing the wrong things in their favor. That is the crafty bit of it, because they have to tell us somewhere the truth. And when you look at a lot of things, you will find, hey, they did not outright lie. They just misled us into something different. And that is evenly evil as not telling the truth. But they are obviously pushed to it, not to bring us the plain truth clearly out that we all can say, oh, aha, that's what it is.
Yeah, and people or humans like the lies and like to be manipulated as well, unfortunately, right? You can only lose this once you are getting conscious. I mean, if there's a certain consciousness reached, you have the ability to look through all these lies, right?
Yeah. Well, I recently read in Ireland something along the line. There is 2 ways humans love to fool themselves. The one is never to believe the truth and tend to believe what's untrue. And our enemies know that very well. That's a quality of us humans. I don't know where it comes. A logical thinking person wouldn't adapt this, but we are all, I think, a little bit too emotional, and they abuse that fact.
Yeah. And we make mistakes. Humans do make mistakes, right? Isn't it?
That makes us humans.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful thing on one hand, but on the other hand, once we can see through the curtains, we could have a much nicer life, and life could be really fulfilling if once we identify ourselves with being humans and act like humans, right?
Yeah, absolutely. What most of the people learn very, very late is that money is not anything that makes us happy. Makes things easier sometimes at life, but what makes us really happy is when we use what the scriptures say. The power of neighborly love, or love in general, is so strong, and it has been shown in so many places on our planet when people really stuck together because they saw the need to stick together. These are the happiest people. Money is worth nothing when you just have a major catastrophe, because what do you want to buy with it? Yeah. You cannot buy. The only thing that brings us further is then working together. And if we are working together, which is the goal of a common law court, because it's not just a court. We are not out there to punish people, because we want to prevent that it is escalating. That's why we are using also the foundation of Matthew 18:15 to 17, where we say, okay, sit down, talk to each other when you have got a problem. If that doesn't help, let some mediators come in. Yeah? If that still doesn't work because they're too stubborn, only then it goes to the court. But that is not what the court is. The court is a community that wants to work together and make things happen when they have to happen. And what can I have really if I have everything in the world, can call this my possession? Where does this get me? Nowhere, because I wouldn't even know how to use it if I haven't got the community that explains things to me, lives things with me, shares things with me. And that is what people need to understand. And then money becomes something in their mind what it is. It is fictitious. Money has got no value. Yeah, this cup here, which I can't see, that has got a value. You can grab this. And when people ask them, yeah, how much is this cup? Yeah, a cup will only be worth as much as the cup, not pounds or dollars or euros or you name it. No, it has got no other value than being the cup. Money is only a temporarily a exchange factor, no more. That is. But most of the people, they are so money driven with something that is fictitious, because money is not linked to a permanent value. Any currency can be devalued overnight from something that is buying one of their pieces of paper, 100 cups, tomorrow only 1 cup. Where is the value of that? And people need to detach themselves from this, that money is not worth more than temporarily being able to exchange this piece of paper for something else. But that is not life. How much love can money buy? None. Yeah? And what do we need to function in a community? We need the caring, one kind of an expression of the love to each other. If that's not happening, we are the poorest people in the world. And this is what the courts should be about. And the GPORD, so the Global Public Offender, Rapist and Debtors Register, is wanting these qualities also displayed. And only the people who do not want to see this, they will have to feel the consequences. And where does the debtors register part fit into all of that? Yeah, they put a value to something. They value money so high and abuse it. And we say, okay, we take that away from you. What do you want to
give and give it to the victim?
Yeah. And what do you want to do then with it? So all you embrace so much will be taken lawfully by the power of the scriptures. And that is why that instrument was created, to make sure that we curb any ill attitude. That is the idea. It's not to enrich someone else or commit the crime of enrichment. No, it's to help the victims get further and the guilty party to be corrected to do the right things. And if it means that we have to set a very high debt for it, then we have got to do this for the sake of the society or the community.
That's wonderfully explained. Now, everybody who's listening and watching and can become a member of the GCLC, of the Global Common Law Court, and of the GPORD, right? Is that correct?
But the only restriction is if they want to do what's right. If
they agree on the terms, on the constitution and so forth, and
Well, to explain or to make it clear what the terms are, the terms, that is what the two constitutions stand for: perform life, seek righteousness and truth, and then display also the love going, the neighborly love, first of all, going out from us. Anyone who does want to do that is welcome in both of the courses, welcome with us. People who do not want that, we don't want to have there because they are destructive to communities. We have no reason to work for that.
Sure. I mean, who doesn't want to, doesn't need to. But, currently you are reworking your internet presence. The website which you used to have has been now temporarily out of service because you're building up a new secure line. And this will be up sometime coming. But how can people get in contact with you, with GCLC or with the GPORD? And what's the best method to become more familiar with what the institutions do and the people behind that do? And what are your suggestions?
Well, people should look out for more of the material that is coming. We have just a seminar done in Ireland, which was very, very short one, to give an insight in what we are doing. We soon have another website which is a little bit safer than the one we had due to the ill motivated actions of our enemies and unlawful, outright criminal actions. We will bring up a number of email addresses now, but this is all being at the moment reorganized. Maybe we could, or you could bring in.
We blend in some of the information.
Before the interview goes up. That would be the start, and we will then systematically inform the people about the development, and there will be more interviews hopefully coming. As long as we will exist, I'm looking forward that all the information comes over, and we will split the activity then in the individual countries because we are overwhelmed right now with issues from members of the communities who are trying to get help, and obviously we need to do our best to fulfill that. People have to be a little bit patient right now because we cannot handle the amount as quickly as we wish.
Yeah. Sure. I mean, this is a pioneer's work on one hand. On the other hand, it's which I find is very interesting. It's decentralized, so it is not a big headquarters someplace, but it's very decentralized, and this is actually what we need, spreading everywhere. And I understand, and I listened to you in earlier on that you are having interest from 16 countries already, or where you have contacts, or where groups are starting, right?
Yeah, we have we are now active. Some places, of course, very little at the moment, but we are active now in 16 countries, and it will get more. It will get tougher for our enemies as well. Now we have core activity at the moment in the German-speaking world because it just happened this way. There was no purpose. In Britain, it's going a bit slow. Ireland is developing. Other countries are developing, and obviously our interest is to detach them as quickly as possible because we only need them to do certain things. We want to lay out, not because we say so, because we experienced they do work, use them accordingly, introduce them. Then we have got a common line, and everyone in the organization, regardless of what language, knows what angle to attack, because we also want to help our Spanish-speaking neighbors anywhere in the world, the English-speaking, the German-speaking, the French-speaking, you name it, we want to be present there when they need it, even if we do not understand the language to the full, but we know the procedure to the full, and we can help sometimes just with gestures if needed, or when they understand, we understand what the issue is about, and we are standing with them. Who wants to do something against us then?
Final words, nicely said. And that's what we wanted. We wanted to get you interested in your own purposes, for your own good. And don't hesitate. Contact us, contact the addresses, which we will blend in later on. Thanks for listening. Thanks, Carl Peter.
Thank you for taking me on.
Right. See you.